Comes to training winners, there are trainers and there are dentists. Dentists? Yep, the good trainers who manage to extract the very best out of their dogs with monotonous regularity.
You must have your dogs clean inside and out, and they must be fit. They can't win races walking, they've got to gallop. And if they're reared right and they're good gallopers to start with, well, you're halfway there.
With a hands-on education gleaned from some of the best in the business, Melbourne trainer Alec Reid's introduction to greyhound racing came courtesy of what many term as a misspent youth.
I used to like to play pool, and I got educated at the pool room, and that's where I actually got my first greyhound. He was a giveaway at the pool room. The guy that owned him was getting married and he didn't have anywhere to put him or take him, so he was offered to me and a couple of my friends, and so we decided we'd become greyhound trainers.
His training career started on a winning note when the pool room giveaway cracked it for a maiden win at Ballarat. But the road to the top for Alec Reid has been one of mixed fortunes and emotions. 7 finalists in the rich Australian Cup, 7 times the drive back to Altona without the spoils. For the former apprentice fitter and turner, it's the one ambition he'd love to achieve.
Early days I had a runner in the Australian Cup. I had a pup called Apollyon. He was only 19 months old and he ran 4th in the Australian Cup. And it was a great thrill. You know, like I was a young fellow with a dog and I was sitting alongside, I just can't name all the trainers now, but I think Marjorie Smith, they had his son boy, and I think it was Seppi Goal, and he had a runner there, like, and I was sitting around the tables with those type of people. And it was, you know, certainly a great thrill in those days, and I've sort of always tried to have a dog for the Australian Cup, or I've entered for it, and I ran 3rd with Lord Adam, and Buca Blitz got beat short half head by China Trip, and that would have pulled off the $100,000 bonus. So, you know, that would have been the ultimate in my career, because Buca Blitz was, you know, he was basically a grade 5 dog. He was a good handy dog.
Reid's first city winner came courtesy of a greyhound owned by his mother. Since then, plenty of his dogs have chalked up more than 100 starts by racing and beating some of the best in the land.
Eddie Doyle, the outside, set to go. Racing on the payroll, slow to begin, and Kid Giant is showing blistering speed to lead by 2 or 3 lengths early to Mac Talent around the outside, followed by Hey Charlie Eddie Doyle on the payroll, second last, going to the back though, and the leader Kid Giant about 4 lengths in front over Mac Talent Eddie Doyle on the payroll, going for the run in the centre, got held up at that point, on the payroll, checked out, coming off the back straight, and Kid Giant the leader, the big danger's Eddie Doyle going after Kid Giant here's on the payroll, flashing down the outside, on the payroll. Payroll's got up to win it. What a giant run on the payroll. A magnificent run has got up to beat Eddie Doyle.
Well, especially with my dogs, I don't trial very often or hardly at all. Once they race and they reach their fitness, they may have a couple of slips up the straight through the week if they need they need their wind cleaned up. But basically, it's just race your dog and have the confidence, even if he has 2 or 3 weeks off, to go and put him in a race, as long as you know that you've got his weight right and you've got him fit. Like if I was to have a dog racing 5:20 and he needed a gallop, I'd never put him 5:20. I think if you're going to train a dog to run 5:20, he only needs 4:50, and he'll give you the last bit, rather than have him on Wednesday or Tuesday prior to a Saturday having a 5:20 and leaving it on the track.
You also use the salt water with the dogs as well?
Yeah, I think salt water is a great medication for dogs. It helps keep their feet clean and their wrists and their metacarpals and track legs and all that type of thing. Just walking in salt water.
So you don't swim?
Very rarely swim. Only swim a dog if he's had an injury that he can't use his legs, and you can't slip him or gallop him, can't put him on the track. I might swim him 2 or 3 times a week to try and keep a bit of condition on him.
But generally you'll just walk the dogs for half an hour?
Yeah, 30 minutes in about a foot of salt water. I think it's therapeutically, it's A1.
Whilst the Alec Reid way of preparing winners is a formula developed from people like the late Keith Bravo and champion trainer Doug Payne, when it comes to feeding, it's all his own.
Feeding, you know, I might be a bit different to a lot of people, but I find that they don't need a lot of red meat. I feed chicken and basically horse meat, but I do feed a good quantity of fat. I think the dogs they get more out of it. They keep more fluid in their body, and basically just good wholemeal brown bread's as good as anything.
You vary it with soups and stews?
Yeah, I do cook a lot. I cook a lot of chicken and meat stews and put plenty of vegetables in, and they get their natural vitamins from the vegetables. I'm not a great tonic person. I just think the natural, good, wholesome tucker and plenty of exercise.
Getting the best out of his dogs is something that Alec is renowned for. He believes it gets back to the breeding and rearing.
The only thing that I've stuck with you know, you've got to have well-bred, what you call well-bred, not criss-cross breeding. You've got to have a line breed where there's a bit of strength in it, and naturally they've got to have ability. If you don't breed with speed, I think you're wasting your time. I think it's essential that when they get to the stage where they want to use their legs, that they go into the open paddock where they can gallop at their own free will, turn left, turn right, balance. I think that's essential. Conditioning-wise, the long straight gallop's the way to be, but when they're learning to run, because they've got to gallop around corners and balance themselves when they go into a corner, if a dog shifts in front of them, they've got to be able to move with it and stay balanced, and then when the run comes, they've got to take it. And I think that's all to do with going out and coursing with 2 or 3, you know, the litter in a paddock where there might be a few trees or a few lumps and bumps or whatever, as long as the ground's not too hard. I think they learn more from that than anything.
A long-time member of the Owners and Trainers Association, Alec says the industry in the Garden State is among the best administered in Australia, but he still thinks we have to do more to attract new people to the sport.
Well, I think Victoria's probably got what I would say the best administration, because the owners and trainers in Victoria have always had a good rappel with the control board, and if there's any problems, they're always willing to listen, and they're willing to, they don't always do what we want them to do, but at least they give you a good hearing, and they can, you know, they consider most of the problems in greyhound racing, and I think that's, you know, you can only benefit by that. Just think with greyhound racing that the image hasn't been presented well enough to get the individual people into it. I think you can get owners, but trainers seem to be the difficult thing. To try and get someone to go and do the work, to actually train the dogs, I think that's where we've got problems right throughout. You know, it seems to be turning more to the large kennels, having 5 and 6 or 8 or 10 runners, especially in Victoria. The bigger kennels seem to be the ones that are keeping greyhound racing at its level.
The Alec Reid story may sound a little bit like a fairy tale. After learning the ropes, he's risen to being regarded as amongst the best in the business. But dreams sometimes turn into nightmares, and when fire ripped through his kennel complex last year, he admits he was close to quitting the sport.
Well, I must admit, for the first few weeks there, I just felt like giving it all away, because it was just so difficult, and so much of my equipment and what went with the dogs, you know, what needed to look after the dogs was gone, and like I say, it just puts you on so much of a downer that you wonder, you know, how you're even going to sort of continue. But I suppose for the love of the sport, and you go on with it.
And your son probably saved a couple of the dogs' lives?
Oh, I think he saved, you know, probably he could have saved all their lives actually, because if he hadn't have come home when he did, I'd say that the kennels would have been well on fire, and so would the house.
With only 6 dogs in work, his strike rate in preparing winners is second to none. Regular hit-and-run missions to Sydney for the feature events keep his frequent flyer points ticking over, an easier equation than sorting out his best dogs.
They're all basically equal, you know, up to just a few lengths, I suppose, the good ones and the better ones. But Buca Sunset, I think he still holds number 1 because of his attitude to race and his tenacity, and he didn't win a huge amount of money, but he didn't race when there was a huge amount of money available either, and his race record speaks for itself. 14 different tracks, and he, like I say, I'm not a trial person, so he raced on probably 10 of them without a trial.
on the payroll, as we said before, 109 starts, 40 wins. How much longer can you keep him going for?
Well, I'm hopeful that he might be around for the next Easter egg, but that remains to be seen. But he's still, you know, he's still racing well. He's probably lost a little bit of his early toe. But, oh, he's been a great dog.
Alec also believes Australian trainers have few peers and that winning a race today is an effort on its own.
Nowadays, you know, to win a race today, you've really earned what you get, you know, because you've got numerous vets, you've got numerous machines. Everyone's got hydrobath, ultrasonic, laser. They've got everything at their fingertips. They're getting the best advice. So, you know, you know, like here in Australia, greyhounds are trained by individuals who perfect what they're doing. So, you know, it's very hard to get an animal today that's got a couple of lengths on the rest of the field at any time.
Well, when you mention that Australian and the individual training, how do you see it in comparison to, say, England or America, where it's on a bigger scale but not as personalised? It's more of a contract trainer with 50 or 60 dogs in work.
Well, I've never been to England or America, but I've only read and seen on the television and what have you. But I'd say that the training methods over there don't compare with here, because they're not individual trainers. They're contract, and the dogs are contracted out for so many meetings. And in England, they have to go into the big kennels, and they just don't get the individual treatment. It's not like it's your animal and it's your money at stake if you're going to, you know, put it on. The owners have got to rely on the trainer, and the trainer relies on the stable hand or the kennel maid or whatever they may be. And I just know at home that if I'm not there, I really feel that, you know, you're putting a big obligation on other people to do your work. It's, you know, and I think that's where Australia, like, you know, just the average trainer here, he's got his 3 or 4 dogs or his 2 dogs in the backyard, and he just looks after them like, you know, that's part of the family.
Well then, how good do you think Australian dogs are compared to the rest of the world?
Well, I'd say, without a doubt, they are the best greyhounds in the world here in Australia.
A trainer that's held in high regard by his peers, it's a long way from Jack Ferguson's pool room and a giveaway dog. But after 30 years of training and a lifetime of memories, for Alec Reid, his future's set.
I think I might just be a lazy greyhound trainer, but I think I'll always have a dog or two. But whether I can keep up the breeding and the stud and the racing at the same rate that I am now, I don't think there's many years of that left. I think a couple of years will see me out.